Welcome to another episode of the Bandwagon Sports Podcast. Today we're joined by Shapan Debnath from SB Nation to talk Clippers basketball. Shapan, how's it going?
It's good. It's
All
good.
right, all right. So, a few days, 4 days till NBA starts, so I'm excited. How about you? How do you feel?
I'm hyped.
Yeah,
Clippers, I'm hyped.
yeah,
Should be
yeah.
good.
Could be the year. So let's get started. After a crazy offseason with emojis, courtships, hostage parties, and new additions. What's the feeling like around the Clippers going into this year?
I'm hyped. I mean, got better and things are looking interesting. The preseason wasn't necessarily the most fruitful, but the talent is there. I think things are hashing out as far as the starters go. There's a lot of hope, and honestly, people are just trying to forget what happened in the playoffs and trying to look forward. And now that we have this entirely new roster, the DeAndre thing kind of happened in between, so the Rockets thing is kind of washed out a bit in the background, and we're just kind of thinking forward. But really, as far as I'm concerned, the Rockets thing just replaced the OKC thing, and the OKC thing replaced the Memphis thing. For me, it's just I think of the playoffs whenever the playoffs aren't happening, and it's always a reminder. The Oklahoma City thing was still probably the most devastating thing that's happened in the CP3 era in Game 5. But actually, it's close. It depends on who you talk to. The Rockets thing was absolutely terrible. So we'll see what happens. But the bench is finally has the talent to get forward. It's just a matter of the fit because all these players come with baggage, and we'll see how their baggage unloads. We'll see.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's just a lot of hope that finally there's talent on the bench and that we have a couple of options at the three that we can use as a starter. And as of now, Lance looks like he's in the lead to start. So we'll see.
That should be interesting. Junior high schooler starting.
Yeah.
So, speaking of the bench, I felt the Clippers did a great job last year or this past summer. Addressing that depth. They added my guy Josh Smith, Lance Stevenson, the eighth grader, Wes Johnson, and the truth, Paul Pierce. Which of these guys do you think is going to have the biggest impact this year?
As far as the biggest impact, I think the team will go with Stevenson. I think Stevenson is the biggest X factor. If Lance comes completely driven and ready to go, the guy is as talented as most swing players in the league. Season games he started, and the team won, including a blowout against the Warriors. Granted, the Warriors didn't have a few starters playing, and a huge comeback win yesterday against the Blazers. So as long as head straight, I think he's a good fit with the starters, which is funny because I definitely didn't think I would think that. I definitely thought that Stevenson would be best if he led the bench and if he was handling the ball and roll and stuff like that. But the more I think about it, the more I think he'll clash with the other bench players if he comes off the bench, and the more that he'll be in line if he starts. I'm not positive if he's going to start or not. Doc came into the preseason thinking Wes Johnson was going to start, kind of, but wasn't sure between him and mostly Pierce. But now that Stevenson has gotten some starts and the team won both those games, we'll see. But it's still not in stone. In fact, the team went down by 30 something points in the first quarter yesterday against the Blazers, even with Stevenson starting. But he played well the entire game, and if he can be that, I like to call him a Tony Allen type. If he plays a Tony Allen type of role, and think about ball dominant, locks in defensively, cuts relentlessly, creates once in a while when Paul is maybe tired. Chris Paul, if he then he's very much a starter. He has the talent to start. So do Smith and Pierce for
Well,
that matter.
what
But
about what about the
yeah,
dynamic between Lance Stevenson and Chris Paul? I mean, I just feel like Lance Stevenson, he makes great plays, but he also makes bonehead plays, and I wonder how's the dynamic so far been in the preseason between those two guys? I mean, Chris Paul's very competitive.
I mean you can't you can't really tell much. That's always seems like a big play. MC Holler is like he's fired up. I don't really think Lance Stevenson is a locker room cancer or anything. I think he's asked to do and with the Hornets, I guess, right? He was asked to do a lot with that team, and he kind of totally fell on his face. I don't know if the second be trying what he could do to be a decent teammate, but it just didn't seem to work. And I don't know, just felt like a really bad fit. Kemba Walker is also a young player, so he really wanted to have the ball in his hands all the time, and he didn't really understand when to pick and choose his spots. Not that Paul is on the offense, but I think Lance knows team on the floor with Chris Paul. He's not going to be holding on the ball and running pick and rolls or like doing ISOs or over dribbling normally does. And the good thing about Lance is he's super talented. He's not just a scorer. He's a very good rebounder for his position. He's a very good defender when he wants to care about it. He can cut a hoop. It's just a matter of his shot selection. And the best thing that I feel like Chris can get him shots, but I don't even really want him to shoot when he's playing with Chris. I want him to defend. I want him to cut, kind of what Barnes, except with less shots.
Right.
If it comes off of him, then cut. Like, because he's very good at cutting off. He can cut off the ball. I've already seen it in the preseason, and it's going to be interesting because if he starts, the spacing will be off whack. Unless you're with Barnes. Actually, it'll be kind of similar because even though Barnes shot a good percentage, it's not because he had a hand in his face, because he was wide open. So the spacing might be similar, even though Barnes shot a better clip to defend Matt Barnes when he was starting with the Clippers. And nobody will care to defend Lance. Lance has already gotten so much space. Whenever he hovers on the perimeter, it's when he's in trouble. So as far as the dynamic between him and Chris, you can't tell much from 60 season, including one game where Chris didn't play. So you can't really tell too much about what's going on. Chris, in fact, didn't play most of the second half yesterday against the Blazers when the team came back. The team came back throughout really came back in the last half of the third quarter, maybe the fourth, when Pierce hit all those threes. So I can't really tell much about Chris. Everything in practice seems to be very well tuned. Everybody seems locked in. I've heard nothing but good things. Austin Rivers has talked about everybody accepting their roles because they're taking after Pierce, accepting a bench role. So,
yeah.
I mean, can't really tell too much, but I think both of them want to win. I think both of them are hyper competitive. Both of them kind of let their emotions get ahead of themselves when they're behind, or like Chris is not a stranger to getting out of line when he's behind or when he's flustered. He's taking shot playing basketball. So I think it could work. It's just a matter of Lance. If Lance will fall behind Chris and Blake,
yeah,
I can dominate the ball alongside Blake and Chris, who are two of the two top 10 players in the league. You're not going to want to be ball dominant. You're going to want to do the other thing. So I think it could be a good fit as a starter, and I did not think that at all when he came in. So he's not even the biggest small forward. He's just a big body. So
he's a big guy.
So we'll see. Yeah.
What do you think's the Clippers' most glaring need going into this season?
Right now, it's cohesion. I think maybe they could use another. Maybe they could use. I don't even know what they're missing roster-wise.
I mean, for me, the one thing that to me is kind of glaring, a little I'm concerned about, is they don't really have that perimeter like lockdown defender. Like, when they go up against like the Rockets with Harden or Durant.
I'm not worried about Harden after seeing what happened to him he shot terribly against the Clippers. JJ Redick seemed. Harden wasn't the reason the Clippers lost that series. But Kevin Durant is a worry.
Yeah, I mean, for some reason, DeAndre Jordan, his presence just gives Harden a lot of trouble. But still,
Harden's a little girl, and all he does is flop. That's why. You have DJ in his length, and you have Redick deciding to play off of him. It's so simple. In fact, I thought that the Warriors did a lot better job playing off of Harden and to end that series than they did to start, because Harden was feasting. That first game, I remember Harden went crazy.
Oh yeah.
But everybody should adopt the JJ Redick way of guarding Harden. Just give him space. Don't let him get tangled up in your arms and flop his way to a big man and with length, and keep him as a second line of defense, and have Redick just essentially cut away his lanes. Because when Harden's not playing with his hand, he's gonna take a jumper. When he's on his dominant hand, he's gonna drive to the lane. Like, it's like a pretty consistent thing. It's just you have to play off of him because he's gonna use contact.
You think between Lance and Wes Johnson, they should have enough, to guard some of the elite wings in the West?
I mean, it all depends on Lance again. Lance needs to lock down. That's all. Like, I was watching some of the Warriors game, and when Lance decided that he wasn't going to give Klay Thompson any room, he didn't give Klay Thompson any room. I love Lance's fit against the Wings and Golden State, which makes that matchup even more interesting, particularly Klay Barnes, because he's a big dude. He won't let anybody get space. I really can't wait to see a healthy Warriors team against a healthy Clippers team, because I think that's when Lance will have a chance to shine defensively, because they have lots of wings. And
one thing with Lance, for better or for worse, he's a physical defender. He when he's locked in, he gets up on you. He contests,
blow in your ear, all these things.